What's up, guys? It's Wiggle with Wiggles Outdoors, and today I'm going to show you guys some hammock tips 101. A while back I showed you guys how to hang a hammock and all the basics to it, and I've had a few questions about underquilts and top quilts since then, and kind of going to cover that today a little bit and tell you guys what that's all about. Let's see what we can do. So it's fall time, and it is now cold. Last night I camped out, and it was about probably high 30s, low 40s. My drinks didn't freeze, so I'm guessing it didn't get down to freezing point, but it's definitely cold. And in a hammock, it stays colder than a tent does. A tent, you just have that conduction of the earth. In a hammock, you have that convection, so year-round, even in the summertime, if it's under 70 degrees, it gets pretty chilly out here. So you have to combat that somehow. Underquilts are the best way to do that. Down here, I have my hammock gear 0-degree model, and this is down with down feathers, goose down. It's pretty good. I use this. I've used it all the way up to negative 12 degrees. But I do have some extra fluff in here. Whenever you order it, you just get a few extra ounces put in it, and that's what I did. And this may be ultra lightweight, and it works really good. We'll go over that more in just a second. My top quilt that I use is a little different. See, with a hammock, you don't use a sleeping bag, because if you use a sleeping bag inside the hammock, what it does is it compresses down underneath you, and the air, or conduction is when the earth sucks the heat out of you. Convection is when the air around you sucks the heat out of you. Well, the air will take and come through, and since that's compressed down, you have nothing in between you and the hammock bottom, and that bottom gets really cold. So what that will do is it'll still make you cold, even if you have a really nice sleeping bag in there. So what you do is you get an underquilt to get underneath the hammock, and then you use a top quilt. A top quilt, if you don't know already, is not like a sleeping bag in the sense that it doesn't zip up, it doesn't go all the way around you. It's just a quilt that goes over top, and it's got a foot box in it. This is also a hammock gear top quilt, 0-degree model, a few extra ounces of fluff in it, and I can't say enough good things about hammock gear. They're amazing, and their customer service is awesome. They get it out to you very quickly. It's just very high quality products. The hammock I'm using is just a very basic E&O double nest. It's the camo model. I've showed that in a few other videos. And then I'm using my mosquito net, and actually I'm using my mosquito net up until the cold this year, because this actually gives a little bit of extra warmth in there, and it's just a comfort factor for me. And it doesn't weigh enough to really mess with my backpack setup too much. Now, underquilts, we'll talk about those now, as well as other insulating options. Now, if you look online, you'll find underquilts are, pretty expensive if you get a good one. Down, even the synthetic ones are pretty expensive, but down is the way to go if you can. For the simple fact it's so lightweight, it's all, the best quality, as far as that goes. And I just love it. I'm a huge down fan, but with these right here, they range about $300 a piece. So if you get both of them, you're looking at like $700 after shipping and everything, and it's not bad, I love mine, and then if you get extra fluff in it, it costs even more than that. So they're pretty expensive, but you get what you pay for. I've had mine for over a year now and had no issues at all with mine. Storing it, maintenance is just a little bit more, but even then, it's just not that much. But if you can't afford one of these, I completely understand, because when I started hammock camping, I couldn't afford one of these either. So what I did was this. They make Z-pads, I think is what it's called, and they're a type of pad system that comes around, and you can put a sleeping pad in it like this, but it also forms your hammock. And what you'll do is you'll take your top quilt or your sleeping bag out of here, because you're probably going to use a sleeping bag at this point. And I put a pillow in mine also, but you'll take your sleeping pad and you'll just put it inside your hammock. And, depending on the R rating of that sleeping pad, you can sleep pretty cold in that as well. And that will help prevent some of that convection. But, like I said, it doesn't combat it as well as an underquilt does. And something else about the sleeping pads that I've found is that when you're sleeping in them at the nighttime, they tend to slide a little bit, especially because most of these hammock materials are made out of ultra lightweight, like seal nylon and, a few other types of fabrics, but they're very slick. So, you can stay in them pretty tightly if you're in regular clothing, but these sleeping pads, for some reason, they just want to slide. So this one right here is just a Therm-A-Rest Trail Scout regular. It's a very cheap model. I think I only paid $60 for this at Bass Pro Shops. And, honestly, it's gotten me through quite a bit of nights, but I've used it in my hammock before. And it works, but I've never camped like super cold with this thing, but I'm sure with the right pad system you could. You can actually look at some Hammocks, AMOKs. Those are pretty cool too. Those are a hammock that sets up that you don't use an underquilt with. You actually use a pad for it, and they have a pad slot for them. If you're looking into pad sleeping, or if you think pads are more comfortable that way, go for it. Personally, I've got my underquilt, and I like this setup pretty good. So let's talk about how to set up a hammock or an underquilt. In some of my videos, I've noticed a couple people has mentioned that I have my underquilt set up underneath my mosquito net, and they kind of asked me why. Well, there's a few reasons behind that. I find it easier to set it up this way, so I don't have to go inside my mosquito net to set it up there. And it also doesn't compress my underquilt as much, so I get more insulation out of that. I have set it up on the inside of my mosquito net before, but again, I find it easier to do this. And all you do is you just set it up normally like you would on a hammock, except for you just put it underneath the mosquito net. I can show you guys how to do that now. Setting them up pretty easily. So these hammock gear underquilts, they come with these S-beaners. And, again, they're not super high quality, but you're not putting any weight on your underquilt itself, so that they just kind of dangle there. But what you do is you just take the S-beaner, and it's already attached at one end. You just take the other end, you attach it to either your knot, wherever your hang point is. You can hang it to your other carabiner that I use to actually hang my hammock from. And then you run it through, and as far as tightening it up goes, it comes with this little clinch up system. So you have it hung on both ends, and then you can have it, hung out loosely like this right here. Well, you'll notice that there could be an air pocket in right here, and that's a good place for air to come through. During the summertime, you're going to want to have this a little looser than what I have it now. But during the wintertime, I like to go ahead and clinch it on up, and then I'll test it out a few times. I'll lay inside my hammock and test it out. I mean, you don't want it so tight that it's like directly up against it, because then when you lay in it, it's actually not going to form to you as well. So you'll just kind of tighten it up enough to where it's right on it, and then you just kind of play with it. Lay in there, see how it feels. And, you may have to adjust it a couple times. As far as the length of it goes, you can adjust where it lays at. If you put your head on this end, well, you've got a foot box, so you may want to put it more up towards your head, and vice versa. Maybe you want to put it more towards your feet, or if you got a long one like I do, it can cover your whole body, and then you just adjust it to where it's evenly played out amongst you. So this one right here is for adjusting lengthwise. This one is for adjusting the gap between the underquilt and your hammock. And all that does is, again, that just prevents the air from going down underneath your hammock, and that's convection, and that's what gets you cold. So if you start feeling air underneath your hammock while you're laying there, if you got one of these on, you might want to get out and just kind of tighten this up a little bit, or maybe loosen it depending on how tight you actually have that sucker. And then, after you're done with it, it's always a good idea to just kind of loosen them up a little bit, and that prevents that down from getting squished up. But, pretty good setup here, and once you lay in it, it's really comfy. And top quilt, like I said, it's just like a sleeping bag. We don't really have to go over that, because you just throw that over top of you, put your feet in there, and you're good to go. These underquilts, though, they're super easy to put on, super easy to take down, and they fold up super quick, super small because they're down, and they're lightweight. But that's underquilts and top quilts. Alright guys, that's Hammock Camping 101 with underquilts and top quilts. I hope you guys found some insulating factors about this. Go out and test it out. Just because you don't have an underquilt doesn't mean you can't cold weather camp. You can always use pads and other factors. You can hang lower to the ground, as well as tarp systems with doors, and we'll get into those in another video. But thank you guys for watching. Go down below, like, subscribe, and comment. Check out some other hammock hanging videos, and peace out.